This is a simple example about how to set up a Python project on Ubuntu 18.04 or greater with Poetry and vscode with the Python extension. So first we're going to make a folder for our project. And we're going to edit it with vscode. Right, let's open up a terminal and install a Python virtual environment. Now we're going to initialize the environment, activate it, and install and initialize Poetry. Add our dependencies as we go. Okay, we're going to initialize Git, so let's make a git ignore. And stick in some stuff that we know we're not going to want. Okay, let's initialize Git. So by doing this we stop VS Code from complaining about the number of files that are in the virtual environment. Okay, so now let's create a README. Right. Now we're going to edit the project.toml, put a bit of stuff in there. So we're going to put in the repository, some keywords, the README, and where the package is going to be. So let's make that package folder and initialize it with an init file, which can be empty. Okay, so now let's select the interpreter in Visual Studio Code as our virtual environment. Alright, now we've got to this point, we can do a Poetry install. And that'll set up our virtual environment with knowledge of this package. Now we can add some development dependencies. I like to use PyLint, MyPy, and AutoPep8 for formatting. So while it's doing that, we can set up VS Code a bit more. So we're going to want to set up the linting, and also got format on save, and I show a ruler so I know where it's going to fold. Okay. So if we have a look at what it's done, it's stuck in some dev dependencies. Right. Now let's start writing some code. Pop in I created earlier to add some numbers. So we can see we're getting some complaints here. What it wants is some doc strings, so I'm going to use a utility called Python docstring generator, which I've already got installed, and I prefer to use the Google docstring format. So once I've got that, I can generate some doc. Right, and rather than have you watch me type all this in, I've got one that I've prepared. Okay, so now we have no problems. So we need to export the function, or the functions. And now it would be good to write some tests. So we can add PyTest as a dev dependency. I'm going to make a folder for the tests. Paste in some tests. So now we need to set up vscode for testing. So we want to choose Python configure tests using PyTest and then the tests folder. So it discovers some tests. We get the little conical flask. And we can see all the tests, and now we can run the tests. Let's make it fail. Oh no, oh no. Okay, all good. Let's make it pass. So, you'll find sometimes it decorates things with the ability to run and debug the tests by the test, but you won't get that until you reload the window. So we'll reload the window. And now with a bit of luck. Yeah. So we should be able to now debug our test. Step in, step over, bang, 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 and we're all done. So, in fact, let's do that again. You also get a little debug console here where we can see, and then all the local variables here and the call stack here. Right, this terminal, when it restarts, loses your virtual environment, so if you just exit and come back in, we can get back there. Right. Let's make a simple program. And again, here's one I prepared earlier. So one of the nice things about putting in the typing in the doc comments is that if we hover over it, it tells us our documentation and all of the types and what it's going to return. So now we've got a program. We want to be able to run it. So let's go and set up a launch configuration for Python. This is going to just run the current file, but actually I want to run this file. Now if I just do that, it won't work because I've got relative imports. In fact, let's show you what happens. So if I relative to my workspace folder, paste in the path and say accumulate, and then run it. It'll complain that I've got a relative import, but we want to use relative imports. So the way we get around this is we make an entry point. Now this is going to complain because I haven't added the import. So now this guy should be happy. And it is, one complaint. Well, I'm not worried about that. Okay, so now we should be able to grab that and use that in our launch. Now, this guy takes some arguments. So I'm going to put them in here. Something like 2 plus 2, and with a bit of luck that should be 4. So we can put in a breakpoint, step through our code. There we go. Right, once you've done that, it's quite nice to be able to make this a runnable script. So we can put this in the poetry file. So we said this is the name of the script that we're going to make, and this is the function to run and the path to it. So if I do a poetry install, it'll make that script in here somewhere. Why didn't it do it? It should be there. Simple. Maybe I didn't save it. Give it a chance. There we go. Simple calculator. Plus 2. Divided by 5. I have a bug. Let's debug it. So 3 divided by 5. So we needed to do minus multiply and divide. Stop it, and now we should just work. Yes, very good. Okay, let's commit what we've done. So that's about it. The other thing we could do is we could build it. So that's created this disk folder with the tarball in it, and now we could publish it to the PyStore. username and your password, which you're not going to do, and then if I put my password incorrectly, it would have published it to the PyStar. And there you have it. I hope that helps.